What's up guys, Stark here. In today's character spotlight we are taking a look at Caster from Fate Zero. So his pictures are going to be on the screen for you right now. Now he is a caster type servant, so he will be weak to riders and strong against assassins. So he has some really cool artwork. It captures how insane he is in the series, especially the last picture. Like, he's just going completely mental. And it's really nice artwork. I don't like the character at all in the series, but he is kind of entertaining, to say the least. So let's move on and talk about his stats here. So at level 70, he's going to have 6,514 attack, and he's going to have 9,506 HP. So he's got some really high HP stats, but some pretty low attack stats. I don't recommend grailing this guy, stat-wise at least. His stats don't end up being that good. You generally want to get a grail character who is going to be very, very useful endgame, or who's going to have really, really good stats at level 100. And this guy just doesn't quite cut it. Grails are not easy to come by, so you have to be very careful with who you actually use them on. But yeah, those are his stats, so let's take a look at his skills now. His first skill is going to be called Mental Corruption A, and this will increase mental debuff rate for 3 turns, and greatly increase mental debuff resistance for 3 turns as well. It's only a self buff. It's pretty nice, you know, using that you're gonna not get debuffed probably at all for mental debuffs anyway. So it's a solid skill. Moving on to his second skill here, it's going to be called Aesthetic Appreciation E, and this will decrease Noble Phantasm damage of one enemy as long as it's a servant for 1 turn. So at level 1 is going to be a 5.5%, and at level 10 is going to be an 11% decrease. Not a whole lot, but you know, Noble Phantasms hit pretty hard, so if you can take any amount of damage off that, it will be very good. And then his final skill is going to be called Evil Eye of the Abyss C, which has a chance to inflict terror on all enemies for 5 turns. Unfortunately, this is a strengthening power-up quest, so you will have to wait to unlock this on the global version. But at level 1 it has a 30% chance, and at level 10 it has a 40% chance. So it's gonna be about, obviously it's gonna be 40%, but it's you know, not gonna hit too high. Even if you're level 10, it's still gonna have a really high chance of missing. Okay, so what terror or fear actually does, depending on the translation, it will each turn, so each one of those 5 turns, it'll have a chance to stun the enemy. But once it stuns the enemy once, it will go away. So you're only going to get 1 stun out of it. But it is, like I said, a 40% chance to inflict terror on the enemy. I assume that would work for each enemy, not all of them at once. So maybe you'll get it on at least 1 of the 3 enemies if there's 3 in the wave. That's pretty nice. I wish it was a higher percentage, because even if you get lucky enough to have terror work, it still has a chance of stunning the enemy. So yeah, it's basically RNG reliant, and we can't even use the skill, but definitely when we get it, it'll definitely make him a lot better to use. So moving on here to his passive skills. Now, you guys have probably noticed that this picture is taken from a different website than the one I usually do, and that is because the site I usually use is currently down, so I had to go and get the picture from the wiki. I had all the other pictures saved because I was planning on doing the spotlight previously. Anyway, that's why it's different. So anyway, his passive skill is going to be called Territory Creation B, and this increases damage of units' arts cards by 8%. So that's really nice. I believe he's primarily an arts card user, so it'll work. It'll definitely help increase his damage a little bit. So moving on to his Ascension and Skill Enhancement materials right now, I'm going to throw the picture on the screen for you. He does need quite a bit, you know, the pages, the Homunculus Baby, the Demon Hearts, the Lanterns, lots of premium items that we don't have access to, really. I think maybe the Demon Hearts are the only ones you can actually get right now. You might be able to get the Lanterns as well, but still, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're going to have to wait on to max this guy out. Moving on to his skill enhancement materials, and he needs much of the same here. Again, it's all, not all, but it's very, you know, limited quantity items that we don't have access to right now. So you're going to have to just stock up and wait for this guy if you want to max him out. So moving on here to his craft essence, it's going to unlock the letter from a friend craft essence, and this will increase buster card effectiveness of all allies by 20%, but decrease critical star drop rate by 20% while in the field. So you know, it's not bad if you're using it on a buster card team, because you're going to be dealing primarily in the buster cards as opposed to crit damage. So this is a fair trade-off if you're using it that way. It's definitely usable if you do it for that way, but obviously if you're going to be using any sort of critical team, you do not want to use this craft essence at all. So moving on to his command cards and his Noble Phantasm, he has 1 quick, 3 arts, and 1 buster. So you primarily want to use him in an arts team, but you can also throw him into a buster team because of his Noble Phantasm and his craft essence. They're all going to work for busters as well. So you can mix it up a little bit with this guy, which is always nice. And then as for his Noble Phantasm, like I said, it is a buster, and it will deal heavy damage to all enemies, and on the overcharge it will decrease the attack of all enemies for 3 turns. So that's really nice. The damage isn't that much, it's only 500% at level 5, but the attack decrease is 40% at level 5 for 3 turns, and that's a really nice debuff, and it does some really good damage as well. So yeah, it's a really solid Noble Phantasm. It's going to probably be really difficult to max it out because you unlock caster by completing France in the story. So primarily, if you're gonna reroll, he's not gonna be in the pool, and then after that, you're probably not gonna pull in the story banner because you're gonna already have the servants you want, and then you're gonna pull in the banners for new servants when they come out. And unless he's rated up in that pool, you probably won't be getting too many copies of him. But if you do find a way to max him out, then you know it's a pretty good debuff / damage dealer for you guys to use. So now let's talk about some of the craft essences that you can use for this guy. So like I said, he does primarily work in arts and buster teams. So you can use the standard setup for arts or buster. So you can use Kaleidoscope, or you can use Projection for the 15% increase for arts, or Formal Craft for the 25% increase in arts. Or you could switch it up, and if you're using him on a buster setup, you could use the Verdant Sound of Destruction for the 15% for buster. Or you could use Limit 0 Over for the 25% increase for buster as well. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video here for caster. Tomorrow I will be doing Caesar, and we're getting really close. I think I have one more 3-star servant to do after this, and then we will jump into the 1 and the 2 stars. I'm not going to do all the 2 stars and then go into the 1 stars. I'm just going to combine them all together into one big group and just pick them from that pool. And eventually we'll just get them all done, and then we'll go from there. So until then, I'm going to leave you guys here with Caster's Noble Phantasm, and I will see you guys tomorrow.